PAC either. I mean, a PAC, a political action committee, is an entity that's set up to give money to politicians who will support their cause. I mean, we certainly we're certainly not at the level that we could be making donations to political candidates, but politics is concerned with two things rather. One is people, and the other is money. And we're trying to have a grassroots organization with a lot of people in all of the states, and that they will be contacting their congressmen, their elected representatives, getting involved if they support us, opposing them if they don't. I mean, that's the nature of politics, and this is a good year given the dynamics of the Democratic candidacies,
sure.
And as well as, Senator McCain obviously is going to be the Republican nominee.
Yeah.
But it's a good year for that, and we are growing, and things are moving along well, but we have so much work to do.
Yes, a lot of work. Well, and that brings me to a question. What has CEL, what have been a couple of the activities you've been involved in recently? Now, I did hear that CEL purchased, is this true, purchased a copy of Ending Aging for each member of Congress. That's 435 members.
That's 500,
or 535
books. 535 books. And I took them up to the Hill, bit by bit. I mean, if anybody who's been in the halls of Congress knows that it takes a while to distribute that many books. Take my word on it, because I wanted to talk to either the member or his or her representative that deals with science and these types of issues. So it took a while. It took a few months, actually, to do. But it was very worthwhile, because one of our biggest enemies on Capitol Hill in Washington is ignorance. Nobody knows much about this issue at all.
And apathy,
I think that's slowly changing, but not in any large way. People still associated it with life extension with a wild dream. It's never going to come true. I mean, also, quite frankly, in some offices, you run into a situation where they're just philosophically opposed, even if it were possible. And that gets into religious and philosophical issues.
Yeah.
And but overall, the impression that we left was very good, because the book Ending Aging is, first of all, readable by people who are non-scientists, and second of all, it was a nice little present to the office, and they remember us, and as a result, when we try to get something, we'll have an entree, and that's one of the big things in politics, and that's why it's so important to have a lobbying effort on Capitol Hill, and be able to have contacts that we can talk to who will be, if not sympathetic, willing to listen to our point of view. So it's been going along very well. I mean, the book drive is finished. I had 550 books over at my office. We're over on K Street with all
Were you able to meet personally with any of the members of Congress at all?
Oh, sure. I mean, having been in politics myself, many of the people, for example, in Maryland, they're people I'm on a first name basis with. For the simple reason they were in the legislature at the same time I was.
Yeah, you were. Okay.
We went through some of the struggles then, on things like balancing the Maryland state budget and the various and sundry programs that come up. So, I mean, I know a lot of them, but we're going to get to know a heck of a lot more of them, because this is just beginning. I didn't see this. The book drive was not an end in itself. It was just merely one step along the way. And the first thing that we can do, since we're not going to be dropping thousands of dollars into campaigns, we don't have any money. In fact, quite frankly, I'm going back, to doing a little. I'm going to start practicing a little law part-time, so I can throw more money into this.
Throw some more money, sure.
I mean, sure. I mean, it's difficult in any organization, especially one that is just starting. But they've had the book, and I've had several comments. People really liked it, and I think we showed them that we're not tilting at windmills.
Yeah.
But this is not some kind of quixotic endeavor.
Well, you're catching the ear of some of the members of Congress, but you did mention just a little bit ago about the philosophical and religious opposition to life extension, let's say extreme life extension and immortality, and that is something that at the Institute that we discuss fairly often. In fact, we go through a certain thing about once a year where we discuss whether or not we should change the name of the Immortality Institute in order to sound a little bit more, a little more appeal to more of general society, let's say. And some people have made the argument that we shouldn't engage people on a philosophical level, that we should only demonstrate that it's possible to extend life, and if we get successes in conquering disease and extending life, that's good enough, and that the philosophical struggle perhaps is self-defeating. What do you think about that?
No, I see your point exactly. There are going to be people, though, regardless of what we do, that are going to oppose it on philosophical grounds. Just look at the brouhaha over stem cell research. Now, that was to cure or to help a host of maladies.
Yes.
And there are people that are absolutely opposed to it. Now, sure, I mean, words are incredibly important, and how we present ourselves to the public is important. But there are going to, we have to assume this is never going to be a unanimous vote on anything that deals with, I guess, just life extension.
Well, we're hoping for the majority, not unanimous, but
sure, that's right. You need the majority. Yeah, you need 51 in the Senate and 200, whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I don't go up and say, hey, we're pushing for people to live forever.
Sure.
I've been around long enough to understand that you mitigate your goals. But when they see ending aging, there's only one conclusion one can draw.
Yeah, that's radical enough for many members of Congress, right? Ending aging, perhaps.
Right. I mean, the term immortality is a loaded term.
It's very loaded. That's right.
It really is.
What it seems, though, with the Immortality Institute is that, being a grassroots organization, it's kind of the balance between having a kind of radical name to attract passionate people. The most passionate people. Whereas if you had more of a vanilla, bland name for the Institute, maybe you would get more people, but they wouldn't be quite as active. It's kind of a balancing situation, being a grassroots.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I mean, when we started the group, Coalition to Extend Life, that was one of the thoughts that went through my mind. And I just thought, extend life. I mean, that's been going on for a long time. We're slowly but surely making progress in the actuarial tables, and we're just talking about extending life, not extending life indefinitely, just extending life.
Sure.
So I mean, I just don't need another issue for them to rail upon.
Yeah, by having
as a result,
a radical name, right? Yeah.
Right, so I just kept the Coalition to Extend Life, and when you say that to someone, everybody wants their life extended. I mean, we wouldn't have billions and billions of dollars spent on cosmetics every year if they didn't want to look young. So I try to mitigate that a little bit, but on the other hand, when I do engage in dialogue, I make it very clear what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I just want to pause just for a second to remind everyone who's tuning in tonight that please feel free to ask some questions in the chat box below your screen there, or to the right-hand side on the screen. We can possibly have some questions for Tom here tonight that anyone out there in the audience might have. The one thing that I wanted to ask, which I do ask several people who are out there on the forefront of anti-aging research or in political organizations, is that of regulation. I mean, there seems to be, you just mentioned cosmetics and all the
Right.
different money that is spent on looking young and feeling young and battling disease. Plus, we've got organizations like the Methuselah Foundation and CEL
Right.
and the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine and the Immortality Institute. It seems like there is a world of pressure on legislatures, governments across the world to say, hey, this is what people want. And yet, it seems as though